Jai Hind everyone, myself Dr. Vanna Sharma from Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College. The subject which I am taking, subject is Engineering Physics, code is KS101T in first semester and KS201T in second semester. The topic which I have started in my last lecture, the topic is modern physics, and the various topics which we are discussing under this modern physics topics are these topics are mentioned over here. And yesterday in my last lecture I have discussed about Planck's radiation law, Bean's law, Stephen's law, and this Rayleigh-Jeans law. So I have discussed about the black body radiation spectrum actually, and from that black body radiation spectrum I have discussed about all these laws. So today I am going to discuss about Planck's radiation law, and why the need of this Planck's radiation law is there, that we will try to understand. So what we actually discussed in our last lecture, that the radiations which are coming from a black body, they are known as black body radiations. So what is a black body? A black body is that particular object which can absorb all the radiations incident on it, and if you will cap a black body at any temperature T, then it will emit the radiations of all type of wavelengths. And to construct a perfect black body, or to think about a idealized or 100% perfect black body, that is not possible, but you can have a black body which is having absorbability up to 99%. So this particular cavity radiator, that will act as a black body where you are having a small opening through which the electromagnetic radiations will enter, and there will be multiple reflections and absorption of those radiations, and this particular cavity radiator will act as a black body. Now on the basis of the radiations emitted from a black body at different temperatures, we have discussed about this black body radiation spectrum. So the graph which you can see here, that graph is known as black body radiation spectrum, and from this graph we have drawn some conclusion, we have concluded some observations from this graph, like in case of a black body at any temperature T, it is going to emit the radiations of different wavelengths. As you can see here, at temperature 2000 Kelvin, you are having radiations of all type of wavelengths, right? At 3000 Kelvin, you can get the radiations of all different wavelengths. At 4000, again you are having radiations of different wavelengths. Next point is, at short as well as at long wavelengths, the intensity of radiations is very small. And next point is, as you can see here, when you are moving from a lower temperature to a high temperature, then the intensity of each and every radiation is also increasing, right? And there will be a lambda max for every temperature. Lambda max means it is that particular wavelength at which you are getting maximum energy or intensity. And one more important point is here, that this lambda max, which corresponds to maximum intensity, it is shifting towards a shorter wavelength side with the increase in temperature. So as you can see here, for temperature 2000 Kelvin, this is lambda max, position of lambda max. For 3000, this is the position of lambda max. For 4000, this is the position. For 5000 Kelvin, it is the position of lambda max. It means with the increase in temperature, there will be a change in color of the object, or you can say the radiations which corresponds to maximum energy, that radiation is shifting towards a shorter wavelength. So if you are saying that at a particular temperature you are getting the radiations in visible range, then initially you will get the lambda max in this particular range, and slowly when you are increasing the temperature of that object, you are shifting towards a shorter wavelength region, right? And this particular observation, that was formulated in the form of Bean's displacement law, which states that lambda max is inversely proportional to temperature. So what was done? With the help of this black body radiation spectrum, scientists, they try to give mathematical explanation for this black body radiation spectrum. So on the basis of classical theories which were available at that time, they try to give different mathematical expressions which can explain this entire black body radiation spectrum. But the problem was First, let me discuss what are the mathematical conclusions from this black body radiation spectrum. One was Wien's displacement law, which I have already mentioned here. Lambda max inversely proportional to temperature, or you can say lambda max into T is a constant, and the value of that constant is this. And the second one is Stephens-Boltzmann law or Stephen's law, and according to that, the energy radiated per unit area per unit time is directly proportional to fourth power of temperature, or you can say power is equal to sigma A T raised to power 4. Sigma is Stephen's constant here, A is the area and T is the temperature, right? So these were the conclusions from that black body radiation spectrum, right? Now after this, on the basis of classical theory, scientists, they tried to explain this black body radiation spectrum. But the problem was that there were some formulations of black body radiation spectrum which were applicable only for lower wavelength region, and there were some mathematical expressions on the basis of classical theory which were applicable for the higher or longer wavelength regions. But there was no combined explanation, or there was no such type of mathematical explanation available on the basis of classical theory which can explain the entire black body radiation spectrum. So that was the drawback of classical theory, and in order to overcome that drawback, in 1900 Max Planck, he proposed a new theory which is known as Planck's quantum theory. So the topic of today's discussion is basically Planck's radiation law or Planck's quantum theory. But before moving on to that topic, first we have to understand that what were the failure or negative results of this classical theory for that black body radiation spectrum. So in a classical approach to the black body radiation problem, in which radiation is treated as a wave, the modes of electromagnetic wave trapped in the cavity are in equilibrium and continuously exchange their energy with the cavity walls. So that was the main assumption according to classical theory, that there is a continuous exchange of energy with that cavity radiator. So this was the approach of classical theory. There is no physical reason why a wave should do otherwise. Any amount of energy can be exchanged either by being transferred from the wave to material in the wall, or by being received by the wave from the material in the wall. It means, according to classical theory, what they have assumed, that you can that electromagnetic radiations which are entering into that cavity radiator, they can exchange, they can transfer any amount of energy to that cavity radiator, or they can take any amount of energy from that cavity radiator. Means they can transfer any amount of energy to that material on which those radiations are striking, and when that cavity radiator is kept at temperature T, then it can emit the radiations of all type of wavelengths. So there was no constraint over the energy emitted or absorbed according to classical theory. This classical picture is the basis of model developed by Lord Rayleigh and independently by Sir James Jeans. The result of the classical model for black body radiation curve is known as Rayleigh-Jeans law. So these two scientists, they formulated a mathematical expression. They gave a mathematical expression to explain this black body radiation spectrum, and that law, that mathematical expression is known as Rayleigh-Jeans law. So this Rayleigh-Jeans law, that was developed on the basis of classical theory. And what was that law? That law was that energy radiated by a black body is inversely proportional to fourth power of temperature, right? But this Rayleigh-Jeans law, that does not correctly matches with the experimental result. So there was a mismatch with the experimental result which were obtained for black body radiation spectrum. In the limit of short wavelength, the Rayleigh-Jeans law predicts infinite radiation intensity, which is inconsistent. As you have seen here in black body radiation spectrum, that at the lower wavelength region, the energy radiated is very small, as well as at higher wavelength region, the energy radiated is very small. And according to Rayleigh-Jeans law, this energy radiated is inversely proportional to fourth power of temperature. So if this is the case, if the energy radiated is inversely proportional to fourth power of temperature, then at lower temperature the energy radiated should be very high, or that will approach to infinite, but it doesn't match with the actual experimental result. But because you can see here in the actual experimental result, the energy radiated at low temperature is also very small, but according to Rayleigh-Jean's law it is having a very high value, right? So that was the drawback of this Rayleigh-Jean's law. It can explain the longer wavelength region of black body radiation spectrum, but it is not applicable for the shorter wavelength region. So Rayleigh-Jean's law predicts infinite radiation intensity, which is inconsistent with the experimental result, in which radiation intensity has finite value, right? So this was the drawback of this Rayleigh-Jean's law, and the base of that Rayleigh-Jean's law was classical theory. And according to classical theory, the electromagnetic radiations, they can be those electromagnetic radiations, when they will strike on a certain material, energy will be continuously emitted. It can be absorbed continuously. There is no restrictions, no constraints on that absorption or emission of energy. So in order to overcome that drawback of classical theory, Max Planck, he proposed a new theory, right? And that theory is known as Planck's quantum theory. So the base of this Planck's quantum theory, that is given in terms of these Planck's hypothesis. The black body radiation problem was solved in 1900 by Max Planck. Planck used the same idea as the Rayleigh-Jean's law model, in the sense that he treated the electromagnetic wave between the walls inside the cavity classically and assumed that radiation is in equilibrium with the cavity walls. The innovative idea that was different as compared to classical theory, the innovative idea that Planck introduced in his model is the assumption that the cavity radiation originate from atomic oscillations inside the cavity walls, right? And these oscillations can have only discrete values of energy. So that is the main point. Means energy cannot be emitted continuously, it cannot be absorbed continuously. The radiations, they are created by atomic oscillations, and these oscillations, they can have only discrete values of energy. They can take a certain amount of energy, right? Therefore, the radiation trapped inside the cavity walls can exchange energy with the walls only in discrete amounts. So the exchange of energy that will be in that is not continuous, that will be in some discrete set or discrete packets. So this was the main idea of Planck's quantum theory, or this is Planck's hypothesis. Planck's hypothesis of discrete energy values, which he called quanta, assumed that oscillators inside the cavity walls have quantized energy. Means the exchange of energy that will be in the form of certain packets or certain quantas. This was a brand new idea that went beyond the classical physics of 19th century, because as you learned in a previous chapter, as you learned that in classical picture, the energy of an oscillator can take on any continuous value. According to classical theory, the energy will be continuous, and means any amount of energy can be exchanged. But according to Planck's quantum theory, or according to Planck's hypothesis, only a certain amount of energy can be exchanged, and those that amount of energy, those discrete set of energy, that will be in the form of certain quantas. So this was the main idea of Planck's hypothesis. Planck assumed that energy of an oscillator can have only discrete or quantized values, and these values were given in the form of this formula: E is equal to NHF, where N is the number 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on, H is your Planck's constant, and F is the frequency. So F is the frequency of that Planck's oscillator. The natural number N that enumerates these discrete energies is called a quantum number. The constant H, that is your Planck's constant, and it is having a fixed value. You know what is the value of H? It is 6.625 into 10 raised to power minus 34 joule seconds. Each discrete energy value corresponds to a quantum state of a Planck oscillator. Quantum states are enumerated by quantum numbers. What is the meaning of that? For example, if you are taking the first energy state, that E1 is equal to HF. When it is in second state, then E2 will be equal to 2HF. When it is in third state, then E3 will be equal to 3HF, 4HF, and so on. It means you are having a certain levels of energies like HF, 2HF, 3HF, 4HF, and so on, or you are having integral multiple of HF, right? So that was the main assumption of this Planck's quantum theory. As you can see in your equation number 1, which is E is equal to NHF, we are having different quantum states which are represented by the sequence HF, 2HF, 3HF, N minus HF, NHF, and so on. Each two consecutive quantum state in this sequence are separated by an energy jump which is HF. You can see here what is energy difference between these two, that is HF. What is energy difference between these two, again HF. The energy difference between the next two will be HF. So if you are taking two energy states, two consecutive energy states like this, then the energy difference is HF. The energy difference between these two, that is again HF. So you are having a same difference between the consecutive energy states. An oscillator in the wall can receive energy from the radiation in the cavity, or it can give away energy to the radiation in the cavity, means the absorption and emission. That will be only in the multiple of HF. So the energy can be absorbed, either HF energy will be absorbed, 2HF energy will be absorbed, 3HF energy will be absorbed, or the energy will be emitted in the multiple of HF, right? The absorption process send the oscillator to a higher quantum state, and the emission process send the oscillator to a lower quantum state. What is the meaning of this? If you are having this particular state, suppose you are having this state, and let the energy of this state is HF, and this one is the high energy state with energy HF. So if the energy is absorbed, then HF energy is absorbed, there will be a transition from the HF to 2HF. This is known as absorption. And if the energy is emitted, HF energy is emitted, then there will be a transition from higher energy state to lower energy state. It means the absorption or emission of energy, that will be only in the form of HF, right? So that is the meaning of this statement. So the exchange of energy, that will be in the form of HF. Whichever way this exchange of energy goes, the smallest amount of energy that can be exchanged is HF. So if the transition is from 1 to 2, then HF energy will be absorbed. If the transition is from 2 to 1, then HF energy will be emitted. So during absorption as well as during emission, there is a transfer of HF energy, right? There is no upper limit to how much energy can be exchanged, but whatever is exchanged must be an integer multiple of HF. So always there will be exchange of energy in the form of HF. If the energy package does not have this exact amount, it is neither absorbed nor emitted. So suppose you are having two energy state. This state is having energy HF, right? And this particular state is having energy 2HF. So if you are providing photons of energy lesser than HF, which is required for transition from this to this, then that transition cannot take place, right? So for absorption as well as during emission, the exact amount of energy which is equal to HF, that will be absorbed or emitted. So this is your Planck's quantum theory. Planck's hypothesis gives the following expression. This is the expression for intensity of those radiations in terms of wavelength, and that intensity is 2 pi 2 pi hc square upon lambda raised to power 5 into e raised to power hc by lambda kt minus 1. So this expression or this mathematical formula that was given on the basis of Planck's hypothesis or Planck's quantum theory. You can see here this 2 pi is constant, h is your Planck's constant, c is speed of light which is again constant, lambda is the wavelength of light, k is the Boltzmann constant, and you know the value of Boltzmann constant is 1.38 into 10 raised to power minus 23 joule per Kelvin. Now the theoretical formula expressed in equation number 3, which is your Planck's radiation formula, known as Planck's radiation law. The radiation law is in agreement with the experimental black body radiation curve. In addition, Wien's displacement and it also satisfies Wien's displacement law, Stephen's law, and both the laws, they can be derived from this Planck's radiation law. Means this particular expression, which was derived on the basis of Planck's quantum theory, this expression is applicable for the entire black body radiation spectrum. So because of this, this Planck's radiation theory or Planck's quantum theory, that was accepted because it was able to explain the entire black body radiation spectrum, whereas the classical theory, that was applicable only for a certain portion. For example, as I have mentioned, that Rayleigh-Jeans law, that was applicable only for the longer wavelength region. There is your Wien's radiation law, which is applicable only for the shorter wavelength region. But none of these two expressions can explain the entire spectrum. But now you are having a new formula here, which is known as your Planck's radiation formula. This is in terms of energy. You can have this formula in terms of wavelength. In terms of wavelength, the formula is 8 pi hc upon lambda raised to power 8 pi hc upon lambda raised to power 5 e raised to power hc upon lambda kt minus 1. This is the formula in terms of energy, and that is the formula in terms of intensity. So now we can derive your Rayleigh-Jeans law as well as Wien's radiation law using Planck's radiation law. Means Planck's radiation law can explain the entire black body radiation spectrum, right? So there is a complete matching of Planck's radiation law with the experimental results of black body radiation spectrum. So you can derive this Wien's law from Planck's law, as well as you can derive your Rayleigh-Jeans law from Planck's law. So first we are going to derive this Wien's law from Planck's law. So as I mentioned that the Planck's radiation law in terms of wavelength is this: 8 pi hc upon lambda raised to power 5 e raised to power hc upon lambda kt minus 1. This is energy in terms of wavelength. D lambda means you are talking about an interval of d lambda. Means in an interval from lambda to lambda plus d lambda, the energy in terms of wavelength will be equal to this: 8 pi hc upon lambda raised to power 5 into d lambda upon e raised to power hc by lambda kt minus 1. Now for shorter wavelength, if you are talking about the shorter wavelength region, in shorter wavelength region, since lambda is very small, so lambda is small, it means this particular factor will be very large. It means this e raised to power hc by lambda kt, it will be very large with respect to 1. It means you can neglect this 1 with respect to e raised to power hc by lambda kt. So if you will neglect this 1, then in the denominator you will get only e raised to power hc by lambda kt. So if you will simplify it, you are getting this, and now we are replacing this constant 8 pi hc by c1, and you can replace this hc upon k, because hc is constant, k is also constant. You can replace it by c2. If you are replacing it, you are getting this: e lambda d lambda is equal to c1 upon lambda 5 e raised to power minus c2 upon lambda t into d lambda. And this is your Wien's radiation law, which can explain only the lower part of that black body radiation spectrum. It means this Planck's radiation law, that is applicable for the lower wavelength region. Now similarly we will try to verify that whether this Planck's radiation law is applicable at longer wavelength region. So what we are trying to do here, we are going to apply the conditions of longer wavelength as well as for shorter wavelength, and if at the shorter wavelength this Planck's radiation law can verify this Wien's law, then it is applicable at shorter wavelength, and if at the higher wavelength or longer wavelength, Rayleigh-Jeans law, if it can satisfy Planck's radiation law can satisfy Rayleigh-Jeans law, then we can say that Planck's radiation law is also applicable at longer wavelength region. So that is our objective, to simplify it. So we have simplified this Planck's radiation law at shorter wavelength region, and here we can see this is your Wien's law. So now this Wien's law is derived from Planck's radiation law. It means it is applicable at shorter wavelength. Similarly, we are going to derive Rayleigh-Jeans law from Planck's law. So we are starting from Planck's law, and Planck's law is E lambda d lambda, which is equal to 8 pi hc upon lambda raised to power 5 e raised to power hc lambda by upon lambda kt minus 1. Now we are taking longer wavelength region. If lambda is large, then this lambda is large, which is in denominator, then this factor is very small. It means if you can expand it it will be 1 plus you can expand it, it will be 1 plus hc upon lambda kt, and then you are having higher terms, and since lambda is higher, and in the higher terms that lambda square and lambda 4, those powers will be there, so that value will be very very small with respect to 1, so we can neglect those higher terms, and this e raised to pi hc by lambda kt will be equal to this, and in the denominator you are having e raised to pi hc by lambda kt minus 1, so 1 will be cancelled and only this hc by lambda kt will be left, so 1 lambda will get cancelled and you will get only lambda raised to power 4 here, and you are getting 8 pi kt upon lambda 4 d lambda, and this is your Rayleigh-Jeans law. Rayleigh-Jeans law, right? It means this Planck's radiation law that approaches to your Rayleigh-Jeans law at longer wavelength region, means from Planck's radiation law we can get the results of a shorter wavelength, and as well as from this Planck's radiation law we can get the results of longer wavelength region. So it means this Planck's radiation law can explain the entire black body radiation spectrum, and you know what is the base of this Planck's quantum theory. Base is base of this Planck's quantum base is the energy can be emitted or absorbed only in the form of certain packets. There will be discrete set of energies which can be transferred, which can be exchanged. Energy can be absorbed only in the multiple of h nu. Energy can be emitted only in terms of multiple of hf. So that is the main idea. So this is your Planck's radiation law, or you can say on the basis of Planck's quantum theory, you are having a mathematical expression which can explain your entire black body radiation spectrum, right? So there are certain numericals which can be solved on the basis of this Planck's quantum theory, like this particular question. Calculate the energy of an oscillator of frequency 5.6 into 10 raised to power 12 per second at 300 Kelvin, treating it as a classical oscillator and Planck's oscillator. So in a case of classical oscillator, the energy will be equal to kT. So you know K is Boltzmann constant, just substitute the value of that, and T is your temperature in Kelvin, substitute it and solve it, and you will get the energy of classical oscillator. In case of Planck's oscillator, this is the formula, h nu upon e raised to power h nu upon kt minus 1. You know this frequency can be written as hc by lambda, so you are having this energy in hc by lambda upon hc e raised to power hc by lambda kt minus 1. Just substitute the value of all the constants and wavelength and temperature, and after simplifying you can get the energy of classical oscillator as well as Planck's oscillator. So this is a method to solve these questions. And one more question I am taking which is based upon your Wien's radiation law. Just give me 1 minute. So you are having this question. Find the quantity of energy radiated from 1 centimeter square of a surface in 1 second by a black body of the maximum energy density correspond to a wavelength of 4840 angstrom. Wien's constant is this, sigma, the value of sigma is also mentioned. So you know according to displacement law, lambda m into t is a constant. So that constant, you know, the value of that constant is equal to this. So from here the temperature will be equal to, temperature will be Wien's constant upon wavelength. So the temperature is equal to 5992 Kelvin. So one parameter is now known, that is 5992 Kelvin, and you know according to Stephen's law, E is equal to sigma t raised to power 4. You know what is the value of sigma here, you know what is the value of t. So you can find the energy. So that will be equal to value of sigma into t raised to power 4. T is already known in terms of Kelvin. So this is the method to solve these numericals, right? So the next topic which I am going to take now, the name of the topic is wave particle duality, right? So I am giving you some explanation about this concept, wave particle duality. As you know that light is having dual nature. Dual nature means sometime light behaves like a particle and sometime it shows wave nature. Why I am saying so? Because light can show interference, light can show diffraction, it can also show polarization, and only if light is behaving like a wave, then it can show interference, diffraction and polarization. It means light is having wave nature there. And you also know that light can show photoelectric effect as well as Compton effect. And if you will consider light as a particle only then you can explain that Compton effect as well as photoelectric effect. It means light is having dual nature. So de Broglie, he generalized this concept of dual nature of light radiations for moving material particles. He proposed that if you are having a moving microscopic particle, suppose you are having an electron, and if that electron is moving, then that moving electron is associated with wave nature. It means there is a dual nature associated with moving microscopic particles. This was proposed by de Broglie, right? This is known as wave particle duality. So let me explain through this slide. On the basis of Planck's theory of thermal radiations, Einstein explanation of photoelectric effect, emission and absorption of radiation by substance, black body radiation, etc., undoubtedly established that electromagnetic radiations consist of discrete individual packets of energy that we have already mentioned, called photons, which manifest particle character of radiation. So that is an evidence of particle character. On the other hand, optical phenomena like interference, diffraction and polarization, they are an evidence for wave nature of light. It means light is having dual natures, as I mentioned here. Therefore, we conclude that electromagnetic radiations has dual character. Dual character means they have particle as well as a wave nature. In certain situations, it exhibit wave properties, and in others, it act like a particle. This particle and wave properties can never be observed simultaneously. Means at one time you can have particle nature or you can have wave nature, but simultaneously you cannot observe both particle as well as a wave nature. So on the basis of this wave particle duality, de Broglie, he proposed that whenever you have a moving microscopic particle, it will be associated with the wave nature. So in 1924, Louis de Broglie suggested that matter must exhibit wave-like properties in addition to particle nature. His theory was based on the following fact: the entire universe consists of matter and energy also. Matter and energy can be transformed into each other. According to de Broglie hypothesis, a moving particle is always surrounded by a wave. The wavelength of that wave depends upon the mass of particle and its velocity. And the formula he proposed, that was equal to this: lambda is equal to h upon mv, where h is Planck's constant and m is the mass, v is the velocity. So you can see here lambda, that is wavelength, and you know wavelength, that is a characteristic of wave, right? So the left hand side, that represents wave nature, and on the right hand side you can see mv is momentum, and you know momentum, that represents the particle character. It means this equation, that lambda is equal to h upon mv, this equation itself is a justification for a correlation between particle and wave nature. So it is going to correlate particle and wave nature. So in our next lecture, I am going to discuss this de Broglie matter wave in detail, and then we will write de Broglie wavelength in terms of different parameters. So that's all for today. So just go through the classical theory on the basis of which you are having Wien's radiation law and Rayleigh-Jeans law, and after that drawback of that theory, and then you have a new theory which was proposed by Planck's, and on the basis of that you have Planck's radiation law, which can explain the entire black body radiation spectrum. So today, from the next lecture onward, we will discuss about this de Broglie matter wave. So that's all for today. Thank you.